Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
Well, I guess I'm a little bit intimidated here, surrounded by all this camera gear and a guy that is a professional in the whole video realm with my scrappy audio here. But I want to welcome Torrey Pocock, or actually Torrey Pocock wants to welcome me. I'm so glad you came over. Up to Riggo Studios, which is at 9 Lincoln Court, right off of Chinquapin Round Road. And we've crossed paths, for years. And I think the last time we were actually face to face was probably at the Annapolis Film Festival on the red carpet. Yep. And you do a lot of the red carpet and the interviews for the Annapolis Film Festival and a whole bunch of things around town. But I want to thank you so much for finally getting together, and we can learn a little bit more about Riggo Productions.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity. I believe that you're a staple of Annapolis, and so it's really, really cool for us to have you here. Don't be intimidated. This is just fun stuff here. As soon as we get you behind the lights and stuff like that, you'll relax.
I've been threatening to delve into a little bit more video for years.
Do it.
But it intimidates the hell out.
No,
It really does. Well, first things first, it's Riggo, RIGGO, pro.com is the website.
That is correct. Yep.
Second thing, what the hell's Riggo?
So Riggo, I think that it's a great story. It is a personal story. Most people clearly are going to believe that it has to do with football. It does, but it doesn't. That
Rigging with cameras, maybe?
So close. It's close. So we had the very first big cinema camera that we had was a unit. It was just an iron box. It weighed literally 30 pounds. Then you add to it the lenses, you add to it the battery, and before you know it, it's this rig that's just way too big. It's just unbelievable. So we go out and get a job. Hey, what camera we're bringing? Grab the rig and let's go. So then I find out that my business partner's dog is named Riggo. And so at that point, it just really kind of came together because we had already really thought that that's what the name was going to be, is Riggo Productions. But it all stemmed from the fact that my business partner had a dog. I had a product that we always called the rig. Go grab the rig and let's go. And so now the icon is a dog. It is the first dog, which was named Riggo, that he had. And that's what Riggo is. And so
that is Riggo on the logo.
That's on the logo. It really, truly is. Sadly, he passed a few years ago, and now there's a new Riggo version too, which is, his name is Mac. But it deals with the dog. And in many cases, I didn't ever want our business to be named after me.
Right.
Places will just name it XYZ Productions
Sure.
or Media. And we didn't want that because really it's much more about the people that work here. It's much more about the type of interest that we have and maybe how we're just a little bit different.
Short, memorable. In your case, your logo is just very colorful.
Yeah.
Which actually speaks to, pretty much what you do. But
yeah, Riggo, hopefully it's catchy. I hope that when people work with us, they recognize hey, there's something a little bit different about Riggo.
Who is your customer here with video? Video is everywhere. Okay. We see the little reels on Facebook where somebody's holding the camera up over their head and talking about, my boyfriend just, they're ugly crying. People that are in little studios. And I know that you've got a smaller studio, YouTube studio, if you will.
Yep.
Up here.
It's a great question. I would say that it's one that I constantly am trying to really, truly answer. If I was to draw a picture of literally what does a Riggo client or, partner look like? And the nice thing about running a film studio, a video studio, or a content studio, if you're really going to drive down to it, is that I really don't know who's going to come in here every single day. We have clients, Joseph A. Banks, the U.S. Army, Konica Minolta, really excitingly, the Maryland Association of Realtors. We worked a lot with Homestead Gardens, some local businesses, obviously some big ones too. But the idea is that what I really think that a Riggo customer is someone who is I just need you to listen to me for a minute. I got this idea. If you just listen to me for a second, there's a way that I want to promote my business. And we sit back with big ears, listen to what they're trying to do, and then we figure out how to put that on film. And in many cases, The people that own the business are the most creative. Like they're the ones that are really trying to promote their business. They've probably got some great idea about that. But when it comes to put it on film, like it can be a complicated process. What we try to do is just make it easy. And by having this actual physical space here in Annapolis, Riggo Production Studio is able to offer kind of a one-stop shop. You really can come here and probably get everything that you need. Whether you film in the studio using an LED wall as a virtual background, or whether we're out at your business getting that content, I would say if you were to define what is a Riggo Productions client, it would be someone who cares about their business. Someone who's really trying to figure out, how can I let the public know what my business does? How can I explain what we do? And I'd say it's more of a style of client that we get, someone who's really conscious about what their business is doing and how they market it.
Well, what I'm getting from what you had just said too is that the video production and the end result, that's just sort of the end result.
Yeah.
You seem very consultative. What's that word that I'm looking for?
Was there
I mean, you said, some of the business owners have the best ideas, but they don't know how to do the execution.
Yeah.
And you said, you sit there, you listen with the big ears and stuff like that. So, I mean, are you actually listening and working with them to develop their story?
So yeah, I would absolutely say that. I'll give you an example of the Maryland Realtors that recently they came to us and said, this is what I need to do, and this is how I need to get it done. And we sat down in one afternoon and we hashed out what they needed. And we basically kind of decided, hey, I think that you need a YouTube series. That's what you're going to need. And it's going to be more episodic. Like we're going to be able to tell more stories and just keep it going, all about how to, buy and sell your house. And so in that aspect, we really, really listened to what they were saying. And then we tried to figure out what language is needed to communicate with their not only their members, but also people who want to buy a house or sell a house. And in that aspect, people that really know me know this story. And so I'll give you how we deal with our clients. Let's say that you own a coffee shop and you want to figure out how to market your coffee shop. Well, if you're going to post on LinkedIn, the likelihood is you are going to say, or need to say, hey, I'm really good at making coffee and the people that work for us are really good too. That's a LinkedIn post.
Okay.
If I take that to Facebook and I make that same video and that same content for Facebook, people are probably going to go, I don't care. But if you go to Facebook and I still need to market content with that coffee shop, I need to go to Facebook and the content needs to be, hey, over here, I found a great coffee place to go to, like Rise Up, and you should go try it because I like it too. That's a Facebook post. But then in the very middle, you've got Instagram. And with Instagram, I need to show you, hey, look at this cool picture or video that I took of this new coffee shop. So to me, there's so many different languages that get spoken with content. So when people will sit with us and talk with us, we start to figure out, okay, well, how many different languages are we talking here? Who needs to really hear this message? Maybe it's just one. Maybe it's just one of those. But in most cases, it's more than that. And so whereas 5 years ago, someone would have come to this studio and would have said, we need a TV ad. We'd film a TV ad for, let's say, Homestead Gardens, and there'd be an exchange and we'd be done. Here's the script, let's film it, we're finished. Well, now when we film that, we are starting to think about those different languages that are offered. And then we know that not only are we filming their TV ad, but I'm going to get one really cool piece of B-roll of a really pretty picture. Then I'm going to go, hey, let me talk to the staff member. Like, hey, what's it like working here? Oh my God, I love working here. I've been here for 30 years. I think it's the greatest place in the world. And that's on LinkedIn now. So I just grab 30 seconds here, 5 seconds here, 2 seconds here, put it on.
So now you've got a 15-second little head on LinkedIn.
All for the engagement of what they would have got with a regular TV ad. So when I say that, like, I'll go back and go, who's the kind of customer or client that we would work with? It's someone who starts to get that. Like, hey, I want some really cool content that I can put all the different places. But it's never going to work if I don't really truly listen to them. Yes, we're creative. I'm not going to tell people that we're a creative agency, but the idea is that when you come to us, we can probably take what it is you're working on and probably start to figure out 4 or 5 different ways to use that same day of filming for a bunch of content that you need, because any business that's out there right now recognizes that if they're not posting and putting stuff out on a regular basis, that they're probably going to be a little bit behind. And so we help them with that.
And you look at any of the technologies that have evolved, and I know that people have talked about Ion Annapolis. I mean, we got a little bit lucky with the way our growth grew on Facebook initially and everything else. But I mean, people were like, how does like a little one-man shop like this all of a sudden have it? At one point, it was, like 10 times the amount that the Capitol has, which has been around for 300 years. And, I will sit there and say that I know that the Capitol was very late to get onto the social media bandwagon.
Yeah.
And as you're talking about, I mean, video is really king.
Yeah.
I guess next to cash. Cash is still king.
But but with good videos, you're going to make plenty of cash. So like, I mean, yeah.
But, video, I mean, you can't get anywhere without video. I mean, Facebook used to be fairly static. And now, the first thing you see at the top of your Facebook feed are those reels that come across.
Yeah.
And I cursed my girlfriend because she turned me on to them. And so now every day
it's so voraciously addictive, man. You're not going to hear me tell you that I don't do it, because I do it. I do it.
It's horrible. But, and Instagram, then they obviously switched to that. I mean, I think Snapchat is probably close to dead. And,
yeah, it's, you know what? I have a streak with my daughter, though I've missed a couple. We had to pay to get it back. I will recognize that I am usually going to get a response from her on Snapchat before I would text. So I'm just going to throw it out there that maybe there are particular groups that are kind of headed that direction or staying in that direction until they figure out Facebook, and then they really want to stay with that. But what I will say about that is that 5 years ago, not only were we just doing the TV ad, but 5 years ago, I was still having to convince you why video was important. Now you know that.
Now it's obvious.
Now you know that. Now it's a question of just like, well, hey, who can produce this ad for us, or who can produce this content? And so in many cases, that's why we, want our studio to be open and collaborative and try to work with as many people as we can, which goes back to the idea of working with the film festival somewhat, is that we meet filmmakers and we try to support them with the stuff that they're working on. Again, it's a place that we're trying to continue to grow. We just want, I think people see that Riggo is just a little bit different when it comes to studios. When they come out here, is that, I'd rather get to know you. And we may not work with each other, but I'd rather get to know you.
The product is going to come out so much better if I find that with good creative people, and it doesn't sound as good as I mean it to sound, but when they get in your head, it comes out so beautifully. I mean, I work with a woman that does graphic design for like logos and, for a customer or something like that. I'll say, hey, I need this is what I'm thinking. Can you do something? Or, make me up a new media kit and I want to do whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And she'll come back and I'm like, I think the red just needs to be a little brighter. And I mean, that's the only change, which is a beautiful thing when they get in there and you sit there and you look and say, dang, Torrey, that is exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
But, hey, can we just maybe extend that out a little bit more to have like, the Bay Bridge fade in the background as opposed to cut off or something like that.
Yeah.
Something minor. And I think that's just beautiful when you work with a creative that can get in your mind and do that.
I tell you, working with creatives is like one of the greatest things that you could be. Like, it stimulates your mind. It stimulates what you're doing. We all love doing it. And Lasting Tributes, right place, the
Funeral Home on Breast Basket.
Yeah, they're great. That he comes to us with the craziest great ideas, and so it's so much fun to work with him. But we do get in his. I hope that we get in his head. Hey, Ryan, if you're there, tell me that. I hope we get in his head because he's got the great idea, and we sit there and we work it back and forth until we're like, okay, we've got a script, and then let's go do it. And if you've seen any of those ads, yes, comedy ads, and but they do what he needs, which is. It allows people to start a conversation about a subject that's possibly
not conversation worthy for most people.
So, anyway, we love creative people. There's a lot of creative people that work here at the studio. Riggo is about the people that work here. Like those are the ones that are out there. Like you said, like, hey, they're going to probably come to you because you've got a name and you want to try to do something creative. But there's not a single thing that I can do unless these people are working.
Unless you're getting your team together.
And I was just having a discussion with one of the producers, and we were talking, and I said, look, here's what I want out of our business is that I want to be the best employer that I can be. So when you talk about Ion Annapolis, you talk about the local businesses that are out here, I think that places like that hopefully stand out. I don't need to stand out. I just need to know that when it comes to producing really, really good content, it's because it starts with, I hope, being a good employer, having staff members that love to work here, people that want to come to work every day and be creative, and people that get to mix it up every once in a while.
And you've got the product at the end, and you've got customers that are happy there. I mean, you get somebody that is happy with you. I mean, you get an evangelist for life.
Yeah. And, running a business is hard, man. I mean, especially anybody anyone that's out here in this area knows how difficult it is to run your own business. But again, I'll say it is that the staff that we have here really drive it. I think that that's probably one thing that makes us a little bit different than others. It allows them to be more creative. Everybody here is involved with every step and every process of the way as much as we can. That's Riggo.
Well, you talked about people coming in here and you've got the LED board and backgrounds and these crazy intimidating cameras and lights. That's why I do audio. What are your capabilities? I mean, obviously you said you can go out into, Homestead Gardens and you can take pictures of plants.
I'd say that in many cases, we would be considered traditional. We are a traditional, to say it's a film studio might be misleading because we're not printing on celluloid anymore. It's all digital. But still the idea and the concept is there that we are a film and creative studio to this extent. Here's a couple projects we're working on. We're working on an actual real stop motion animation with real cutout figures, and it's not digital. So that's going to be an exciting job that we're working on. We are doing content that is meant for TV ads. We are doing content that's made for web campaigns. So nowadays, if you're really going to do it right, the likelihood is you're going to have some video that's playing on YouTube. Maybe you've got something that's playing on a podcast like yours, or you've got something that's just going to be on someone's Instagram or Facebook page. So when it comes to the services that we have to offer, it's something that's continuously growing. And it really is more driven by what is it that you need. And then we kind of figure it out because we are a traditional studio in the sense that, okay, how are we going to produce that? Now, what's beneficial to us is that most of those things exist here in this space. We have a LED wall that we can use for virtual productions. We have studio space that can be just about any type of office scenario or YouTube studio,
right? Or in waiting room in hospital, whatever.
Anything that could be anything. But again, we offer the service of talking to you about what it is you need done. We're not just done with the video. Once it's in your hands, we follow up with you. We try to make sure, how did that get put out? How did you use it? What were the results from that thing? Can we repeat it? Oh, don't repeat it. Can we do those things? So when we talk about the services that we provide at the studio, we are content creators, at the basis. We do explainer videos, which are very common for any type of business to explain what they do. 6-second ads, 15-second ads, 30-second ads that may end up on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, very underserved. If you're running a business in this area, you should be on LinkedIn and you should be maximizing that as much as you can, I feel. And so we help produce content for that. And in some cases, edit user-generated content from those clients. They may actually kind of film some stuff on their own, on their cameras. They're out at a job site and they kind of film something and they do that. I'll say in secret that I can't tell you how many times we've had all this big fancy camera stuff up and goes, the best stuff's coming through an iPhone. Can you grab that phone and take a shot real quick, please? There is a very major phone company that you have heard of that actually looked at me and said, hey, can you shoot that on your phone real quick? Yes, ma'am.
That's funny. I was getting some story. I think it may have been a Chesapeake Bay swim. And I remember I was out on a press boat with Elsie, who used to be a photographer at the Capitol. She was, doing her job with the big fancy cameras and everything else. And she took one shot with her cell phone. And that was the half-page, front-page picture. And she loves it. She says, I am so, I'm coming out here with thousands of dollars worth of gear.
Uh-huh.
And, she's got the good eye. I mean, it's, the gear is nothing. I mean, it's not nothing, but I mean, it's the person behind it that really does create.
What did Lance Armstrong say? It's the bike, not the rider.
Yeah.
You have to have a good eye, right? A while ago, I actually did a podcast about that where we actually talked about a pretty big creator, Casey Neistat. You could see him in one of his shots. He was actually setting up his phone and he was doing it. And the thing is that, you know what? People are smart and they want to see good content. I probably don't care how you filmed it. If it's good,
we've gone from a corporate type of a thing. I mean, I imagine, if you were doing this 30 years ago, okay, you'd have the CEO sitting across the table from you with a 3-piece suit, and he's sitting on his tail just to make sure it doesn't buckle. And welcome to our video where we tell you about people like real. They like to be. I don't say see the burps. I mean, it's got to be clean and everything else. I remember there was a consultant that was an attorney that worked for challenging construction contracts, and he specifically would put in typos into his responses just because it was like, this is a real guy.
Mhm.
And I see that if you have an iPhone clip, okay, and all of a sudden, no, it's not perfectly level and stuff like that. It's a little bit off. And I mean, no, it's real, but it's real.
Yeah.
It's not staged. And people really like that and resonated with it.
Yeah. And I can make it look real too. If you give me something cool, like right now, like I know people can't see it, but like right now, actually that LED wall is going to be, it's a shot in the desert with a huge Black Hawk helicopter behind it. So we've set this up to make it look like it's inside a hangar. And chances are it's going to look pretty real when it's done. The idea that I think is that there's so many different tools that are out there. I think what you said is you had it right the best, is it depends on how you see it. And if you can really start to open your eyes as to how you might see something, the likelihood is someone like us, we figure out what's needed to go get it done. I'll shoot on a phone. Doesn't bother me. Some cases, like if it's going to be on TV, like, it's got to be shot on a certain kind of camera and things like that. Again, I think you hit something right, is that it's about who's doing it, who's seeing it, what story are they telling, how did they get embedded in somebody's mind to be able to tell the story. I think that's critical because you're a storyteller. Right.
True, to a degree. To a degree.
Yeah.
But I mean, you guys, so you can go out. I mean, I know when the tornado rolled through here. Through years growing up. I mean, you do drone things as well.
So that particular day, wow. So everyone's talking about the storms that are coming through, and at that point, we did what every other producer probably would do who owns a drone. We ran to get our drone to get the battery put on, and I was like, at some point, the storm's going to run over. And so we are FAA certified with a couple of pretty big drones in our fleet. And we had that drone up in the air, like literally just minutes after the tornado actually went basically kind of right down Chinquapin Round Road, right through here and over McDonald's and over some of those service centers. But we do drone stuff. And so it is not as hard as it used to be that the FAA wants to work with people. So you call in your flight plan of where you're going to go film, and we usually get that done. And we've produced some really cool stuff. We filmed a watermelon farm down in Florida. And there's one point where we had that drone almost 2 miles away. And, just watching it just hover over a beautiful gold sunset while, the watermelon.
When the drones first came out, it was, do you know Mid-Atlantic Aerial? The guys?
Yes, I do. I follow them on Instagram.
They were some of the first ones to do it, get on the social media and stuff like that. And I remember meeting with Dave and Larry. And they were all about, we're outside of Bread and Butter Kitchen. And it was called the Harbor Cafe at the time. So, we need to get permission from the property owner to launch from here. I'm like, launch it. Just put it, ask for permission later, beg for forgiveness later. It'll buzz at you if wrong. I mean, it wasn't like it was flying over any kind of, and I told those guys early on, I said, when you say drone, I'm thinking Iraq and bombs down chimneys. That's what everybody had associated with drone. That's when it first became into the vernacular, was during that war. And I'm like, it's like a remote control helicopter with a camera on it.
Yeah.
Make it simple.
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, those guys have great footage. If anyone who's listening, if you haven't gone to their Instagram page, they've got some great shots where they spin right around the Capitol and it's gorgeous stuff. But the military job that we recently did is all about those drones and about those systems that are being weaponized. And the cost of drones has come down so much that, in places where they want to do bad things and there are bad people out there, they can literally spend $20 and turn it into something pretty dangerous.
I was going to say it's, the cost of entry is next to nothing at this point. Well, you talked that you worked with the Army, and you've done some pretty cool stuff. I know that we talked about the drone of the tornado coming through here.
Yeah.
You worked extensively on the major motion release of the Blue Angels film.
Yes.
You did a Madison Rising video.
Yes, we did.
Oh, I you're a big fan of theirs too. I am.
Yeah.
Chick-Fil-A's pizza menu?
Yes, we did. So this is quickly, I know you're about to mention a couple others, but so Chick-fil-A has a concept that goes all the way back to when they first started. They had a kitchen that was called Little Blue Menu, and Little Blue Menu is where they would do all their testing. And so that was a private thing. Like people who worked at Chick-fil-A knew that that's where they would test new menu items. Through someone that we had worked with for a long time, through LinkedIn, he reached out to me and said, hey, here's where I am now. And sooner or later, we ended up at Chick-fil-A Little Blue Menu over in College Park, and we filmed some really cool stuff for them for Maryland Day. And that was a pretty big highlight, working for Chick-fil-A
Yeah,
was
that's
a
good.
good deal. It was a big get.
That
I really liked it.
That's a get. And I mean, the other thing you sent me one that you were out in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. So Saudi Arabia is where we went for this last job.
What not on the screen here?
It's not on it. The shot that I was referring to earlier is that shot. You'll see what it goes later.
But you were actually in Saudi Arabia, right? We were. You weren't also you were here.
Not this round. This one's gonna look like it. This is gonna look like it.
Didn't bring in General and two in here.
Yeah, it took us 7 months to be part of this program. It was a pretty big deal. About 300 contractors that were involved with it. And we were tapped by Troika Solutions, who's a pretty big military contractor. And we basically helped put together all of the audio visual that was required for them to show military systems that are working counter unmanned drone systems, like the types of systems that would shoot these drones down.
Right.
And we went out to the desert where they were actually physically firing real weapons and real systems out there. And we had to put together all of the audio visual to allow all the generals and all the top commanders to be able to watch these things, work with industry to find out how can they continue to be better defended, to help protect our troops, how to protect us.
And that was a joint effort too between the U.S.
It was. So it was with a joint with the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, and so it was. It is part of the U.S.'s public strategy of working with partner countries to find a solution to this drone problem. And I'd say probably pretty recently in New Jersey, there was a drone that I don't think has clearly been identified as to what it was that was flying over. But then, you got balloons flying over the U.S. Like, people want to come over here and do bad things. And so it was, it felt good for us to actually be working with the U.S. Army as a contractor. And we know there's things I can't share, but there are some things that we did that were very, very beneficial to people. And we were excited to be part of it. It was not just a great big production, but it was something that did a lot of good for some people that needed it.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, what's been your greatest job so far? The coolest or the,
Oh man,
if I said, Torrey, what one have you done is the almost end all and be all?
I love Chic-Fil-A. I love Chick-fil-A. Yeah, I love Chick-fil-A.
The desert with the Army and
so like that's, well, let me say that you can see it. Like, if you go to the DEFCON and RSENT sites, you can see some of the video that we produced there. But there was a Black Hawk helicopter, and these are not small things, that it literally flew within like maybe 30 feet of where we were filming in full tilt. Like, we're looking at the top of the propellers as it came flying through. That made you feel like Top Gun, right? And that was just an exceptional feeling. But to see how chicken nuggets are made at Chick-fil-A was pretty cool.
They're real chicken, right? They're not like
It is real chicken. They're not
the ooze that comes out of McDonald's.
completely. But I'd say like something else that stands out was Joseph A. Banks. We worked with Joseph A. Banks and helped him with their fall campaign. And we shot in downtown Annapolis. It was just an incredible feat to see how they put together these fall catalogs. And they're not the only one that's filmed, here in this area. I know Ralph Lauren has done it and a couple of others as well. I would say that it's funny that I quickly start thinking of the people that we worked with before I think about the stores or the businesses. I think about those people that we worked with, and that's really what stands out because they were creative, right? And but again, as a business who's trying to grow, when you work with a big name like that, that's a pretty cool deal. And it doesn't preclude us from working with anybody. We're a studio that's here, and I'd say that we rely on the businesses that are local here because it's easier for them to get that high level production.
Sure.
For any size business. Like, we're not going to go out there and film something poorly. We're not going to do that. There's always a budget for somebody to get good content. And as we see a trend in people asking for content that's produced on a monthly basis, it's maybe it's a departure from print. But there's a point that people really need that content on a monthly basis because it becomes their marketing campaign. And so I'd say, what's our favorite or standout client? The ones that keep coming back.
What would be an ultimate? I mean, if
I tell you, working the Army job, we call it a big, hairy, audacious goal. I learned that term from Brad Leahy with Blades of Green. We've done some stuff with Blades of Green. It was really cool. That we would love to do a recruitment video for the Army. Like, if I could do that, that would be a really fantastic thing.
I'll go Sam once.
They want you. Like, I mean, how good is that, right? How good is that? But again, there's when we did this, we worked with a lot of great men and women that were working, for the Army, and it really, that wore off on us. It was a really cool thing to see people that sacrifice things on a daily basis to go out and get things done, and that would be really cool. but it doesn't take away from the idea of working with regional and local clients that, you know what, I may have worked for the U.S. Army, but you know how often I've seen my own ad that was filmed for Lasting Tributes on TV? Like, sure, it's really cool to have interns that have worked for us years ago call and go, oh, I just saw that commercial that we worked on.
Well, that's really cool. I mean, video is here for everybody. Okay. I mean, I'm going to say your biggest customer, as far as probably size of the organization, is probably the U.S. Army.
Yeah.
Probably by far.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly you've got Chick-Fil-A, you've got some of the movie production houses that you've worked with, and you mentioned a couple of local businesses: Homestead Gardens, Blades of Green, Joseph A. Banks, which actually is a lot larger than that. They're owned by Men's Warehouse, which is
same company, and you know what, as big as you may think that they are, we also work with an influencer. And after that job was over, a year or two over, I actually called up one of the team members, the creative director we worked with, and said, hey, this guy's going to go walk the red carpet for Disney. Can you guys give him a suit? And they did. Yeah, they opened up their doors and just really suited this guy up. It was really, really cool.
That's awesome.
And so I think the idea is that when we're working for local clients, when we're working for regional clients and stuff like that, I love the stories. I love hearing why they started their business and how they're doing. You know, it's just really, really cool to do that. And it's great to hear those stories. And because in a busy life that we all run into, you know, there's only 24 hours in a day for all of us. That, you know, at the end of the day, end of the week, if I've had an opportunity to sit down with someone and just kind of let time stop for a minute and hear a story, I like that.
Is there a type of business? I mean, I'm sitting here thinking just of I mean, you know, there's restaurants, there's retail, there's, you know, service industries, there's, you know, automobile, there's probably none that wouldn't benefit.
You're right. It is where things are now. Like, video content is so consumed that, and that's not that that's a bad thing. Like, I know people are going to go like, oh my gosh, man, like how many, I can sit down tonight and probably argue with my wife about, like, I don't know what show to watch because there's so much content on TV. Oh, but the thing is, and this is the days of channels 3, 6, and 10. Right. But I'll tell you that even myself, I'm guilty of it, is that if I'm trying to buy something and if I end up on Amazon and they've got a video that I can watch over that product, like I recently bought a pair of cowboy boots. They had a video. So I was able to really see what was in there. It was only 15 seconds long, but it gave me the quick nut about what it was. And that worked for me. And I think that that's really beneficial because, much like our studio here, I'd rather you get to know who works here, whether it's through video or our Instagram account at Riggo Pro, that when you see that, you maybe start to get some insight as to who we are. And I think that that's what's important for any businesses out there, that you should be able to show people who you are. And video is a great way to do that.
It's an elevator pitch. I mean, I can go on to any restaurant website and I can look at their menu and say, oh, that sounds good. That sounds good. I can spend 25 minutes looking through this and, oh, look, they got a good, nice view and they've got, you know, the happy hour and everything else. Yeah. You can do that in a 30-second video on the website.
You can. And really, really can. And, you know, let's face it, you know, we're all sitting at the couch at home trying to figure out what we're going to do this weekend. If I see, you know, a cool menu item that's been produced.
I saw I was on your website again at riggopro.com. I saw a phrase and I thought, you know, that was a typo, but then I thought not. It said I'm trying to think, I think it was a reference. I'll have to find out. I'll put it in, but I thought it was a reference to like a thumb swipe.
Yep.
So and the word I was like, no, that looks wrong. I'm like, oh wait, no, that's exactly right because, you know, next.
So I'll tell you what it is. First of all, we learned this from Lisa, who worked here for a long time. We learned so much from her. But the idea is that we want to really capture people's attention. Now, that's an advertising thing. You got to capture people's attention. But when we try to figure out what are we doing, I'm going to stop at some point and I'm going to look at everybody in the room and go, was that thumb stopping?
That's right. I was thumb stopping.
I need you to stop your thumb. I need you to go, what was that? And then hit it.
And go back and tap on it.
We've been using that term for years. And I don't know, probably somebody else made it up and I just gravitated to it. But really, that's the thing that, you know, in advertising, you got to make them want it. In advertising and marketing, you got to figure out a way to stop them and let you see their message. And when it comes to video, it's so vivid. It's so colorful. It sounds good. You see it. It's great. It can transport you back to another time. that at that point, when you watch that video about your business, there's something that should be said in there that goes, hey, I want to do business with those people. I want them to do my floors. I want them to, service my car, do my grass, whatever it is. Yeah, all matters. It all matters. I got Blades of Green. Yeah, Blades of Green, dude. I love Blades of Green. Dude, they're awesome. They're awesome.
And they're real good at marketing, man.
They are. And I'll say also, they've got a great staff. And so a lot of the stuff that they do is really related around.
Although I will have to last. There was the guy came out just to do like an inspection or something like that recently, and I said, hey, can you rate the job he did? I'm like, he came out, he looked at the grass, and he left. And he left. Yeah, like he did what he did, right? That might be a bit much. That might be a bit much. Outstanding.
It's too funny, dude. Oh my God, I love this conversation. So I don't know how much time you have left, but I don't want to let you go without asking, what restaurant should I be going to check out? I mean, now I've got you here in the.
Well, okay, you live in Crofton. One of my favorites is Ashland.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. As a matter of fact, I was there recently with my wife, and I had cauliflower wings for the first time. And I mean, I'm going back, man. Like, I mean, it was absolutely wonderful.
And I mean, for a fan of poutine, they do an outstanding job with the poutine. Nothing there sucks. Their craft drinks are off the charts good. And the other one that I love is, actually there's two, is Harvest Time in Davidsonville, which is like Patuxent River Road and Central Avenue.
Okay, right. I haven't been there. I don't think
there's like a little 2 or 3 story office building that looks really out of place. It's on the ground level. There's a post office in there.
Right.
And then what used to be Broadneck Grill in Edgewater is now 100 Lots.
Did that change?
Yeah, that
shows how long it's been since I've been out there.
Yeah, it's been about a year and a half.
Yeah, I like Broadneck Grill. That was
yeah. And they still have the one over in Broadneck.
Okay.
But the one here is 100 Lots. That's named after Woodland Beach, because when it was initially subdivided, it was subdivided into 100 lots.
Yes.
And it's kind of cool because they do source locally. And actually I quizzed them because they have a bison ragu, which is absolutely wonderful. And it says, locally sourced bison. And I knew the answer to the question. I said, to the server, I said, so where are these local bisons that you're sourcing this from? And he says, it's a farm right up there in Davidsville. I said, okay, you passed. I know, right? I know it's Bowtie Bison's farm. I know exactly where. Because I would have asked the same thing, like, how's that farm? So, I mean, and I do love when I find businesses that will generate their business off of the backs of other local businesses, and, sourcing locally when you can. And I mean, I get it that, we don't, okay, if I want to buy a big screen TV, I'm sorry, I've got to go to Amazon, or I've got to go to Marty's Screen Store or Best Buy.
Yeah, it's hard to say no in that aspect. It sure is.
And, and that's unfortunate. I mean, and I get that the market has changed. But, business starts on Main Street, starts on 9 Lincoln Court. It starts, on Chinquapin Round Road, West Street. It doesn't matter what street it is, but if you can deal with a locally owned business, they're going to work harder for you, because there's a good chance I'm going to run into you in the grocery store. And if you screwed it up, now it's going to be an awkward situation.
Right. Everybody's going to know. Everybody know. Yeah.
So I think that's, we really do need to get back to that. And we realize that, when we work with Riggo Productions, that you may be sponsoring a little league team there. You may be doing some, in-kind contributions for this, helping your kids and your family excel.
Yeah.
And to get ahead.
Yeah.
When they're, when any restaurant, makes the 10 cents on whatever the hell it is they're serving, the restaurant owner takes a bit of that and he's going to another restaurant, or he's buying it.
Right.
So, and that's really what makes America.
It's so true. It's so true. When we, we had to go through a whole process to get, one of these pretty big jobs. But I remember talking to the person who referred it to us, and I was like, you didn't just put the studio to work. Let me just count it off for you and let you know, there's about 60 people that you employed. There's about 60 people by giving us that job that you put to work that are all local in this area. And that's putting food on the table every night.
Oh, it is.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that really makes a difference. And especially in this time where some stuff with the bigger production studios and, is Hollywood on strike right now or not? I have no idea. It seems like every other week is different. But the people that we employ from here, right, they're regional. We've had the opportunity to put people to work that normally wouldn't be getting it right now, because we had this pretty cool job. And so it really does matter when you're trying to shop local. And I'll even, give it up to some of these bigger clients that we have that, what, they didn't bring down a whole crew from New York, or they didn't bring in a whole crew from California. They actually came to us and said, you know what, we heard a referral. We heard from somebody and said that you guys are a pretty good studio. And then they actually did put local people to work. So, what I would say is I would encourage more of these bigger companies to figure out how they can work local. And I think that that's something that
Can't disagree with that at all.
shouldn't be looked by.
One question as we start to wrap up, we've talked about some of your jobs that you have. We've talked about your capabilities. We've talked about the quality of the work they do, and more importantly, I think the quality of the people that you have working with you that have the creative genii.
That sounds good. Yeah.
To put this together for a business. What do you say to somebody that says, I can't afford video?
I'll say, in some cases, we're probably not the cheapest in town.
You never want the cheapest.
We are probably one of the best options in town. But what I do know is that if we have a conversation with somebody and we figure out what they're trying to do, there's a budget we can land on. There's something that we can do. I think that there's an incredible value that you can have in working with a studio that has worked at our level before, because if you bring it to a different level locally, again, I say, do you think that I'm doing anything differently if I'm filming a big budget or helping with IMAX that I'm doing for a local store that does carpet around the corner? I actually am still going to use that camera. I'm still going to use that camera, their bodies and everything else. And so I think that in some cases, you know what? By working with a company that's handled such big people like that or bigger clients, we recognize how to do it for less. And we can help you.
I don't want to talk prices and everything else, but if all of a sudden we come in and we sit down and I say, gosh, Troy, I want to do this commercial, I want to grow on Annapolis and everything else. And yeah, we can do this. We can do this, do this. And you lay down and said, man, $25,000, we can do this. And then I sit there and I choke. And I'm like, well, I was thinking, maybe $5,000. What I think the benefit of working with somebody like you is that you guys have seen the big budget Army films where you're flying out to Saudi Arabia and everything else.
Yeah.
Yet you've probably also seen plenty of people that have that lower budget that says, and you've got the ability to turn around and say, we got to cut the Blackhawks out of here. We can't rent the Silkhawks.
You know what? I have a good, what I hope to be a good example of how to do that. When someone comes to us and says, hey, we want to get a film done, a video done, or a video content, to me, I liken it to like, the island in your kitchen. You could just make it with regular wood, plywood, and you can just put a nice linoleum top on it, paint it white. It's going to hold your coffee up. You could also use Italian marble. It's two completely different prices to get that done. Don't argue with me that they're two different costs. Like there's two different ways to do it. But the idea is there's still a way to figure out, maybe it's a sawhorse with a piece of plywood that's holding your stuff up. And we recently joked with a friend and a producer of ours, Nelson, that we were like, some people come to you and go, I just want it better than my iPhone. Maybe I should have a budget that's like just better than your iPhone. Here's what I do know is that we take every single job seriously. And at the point that we are so blessed to have a brick and mortar place here in Annapolis, to have the support of people that are here in Annapolis, and we own all of our own equipment that's here. We've got everything that's needed from lights and cameras and sound and all that stuff, that the likelihood is if you come to us and go, this is what we've got, we probably figure something out. And again, I say a lot of people are choosing not just the model of, I just need that 30-second TV ad, but they're saying, what could you do to produce content for me for $2,000 a month? Let's get into an agreement for a year. Dude, I'm all yours. Right. I'll throw that out there. That's what I'll say. I'm all yours. And the idea is that, you're not going to be out there for 10 hours a day filming like a big commercial. Maybe you're going to stop at that place for, 2 or 3 hours this week.
And you're going to collect what you need to collect to do
and just build some content. And I think at that point, you rely on the professional state of like, I'm not going to, that's probably the wrong thing to say. We're good at what we do. So the likelihood is that my vision and what I see, or the producers and the camera people that we see, they're going to get what they need and they're going to get out of there. And now we can produce some content for you.
Well, when you were talking about filming a commercial, a 30-second spot or something like that, and to be able to turn around, or maybe it's longer, maybe it's a video introduction of who we are, but to be able to take the little bits and pieces out and repurpose them for other uses. And I think that's That's a lot of the value that you'd get from working with Riggo Productions.
It is. And I'd finish with saying that to really help people understand that, 5 years ago, that stuff would have been just stuff that ended up on the cutting room floor.
Sure.
Now I reach down and pick it up. That's a TikTok post. Reach this, pick it up. That's an Instagram post. Like when you film a TV ad, it's not the only cut. There are others that were good. There's other content that you filmed that was great. Why not figure out how to repurpose that and make maybe every dollar that you spent worth more? Yeah.
RiggoPro.com is the website. If you are not using video, it's worth going to RiggoPro.com, worth a phone call. Have a discussion with Torrey. I don't think he'll turn anyone away from a discussion.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And just real quickly, we are going to end it right now, but Torrey, unusual first name, Torrey.
Yeah. So real quick, my parents told me it was from one thing. I think that might have been true, that I got named from an uncle or something that was there. But Torrey, it's
not Torrance.
It's not Torrance. It's just Torrey. And usually I get made fun of because, political party of Tory, England,
okay.
because my dad is English and, first generation. And, but yeah, Tory. And so I love it. For the longest time, I'd never met anybody else that had it. Once Facebook started, now it started me.
Now you've got a little Tory club. Yeah. Well, okay. Then the other thing, I'm going to go to your last name, just sort of throw back to my own high school days. Pocock, again, an unusual name. Any relation to the people that make rowing shells?
So as a note, no. But my daughter, who rowed at the Gunston School, we have now rowing jackets that we all had because we're a family that were there that say Pocock. So every time we'd go to a rowing meet, or every time we were somewhere,
VIP is awesome.
Open up for me, this open up, they just walk right through. But so I know that story very well, and have known a lot about him and how he actually started making for the Queen, for the royal family. And there was a point that he needed to move out here, and he went out to Seattle, and he continued to make boats out there, rowing sculls. And it was really cool. But it is a British name, which is where that boat builder came from.
There you go. Man, we got all over the place, but I want to thank you so much for inviting me up here again. The address is 9 Lincoln Court, and actually, if you're coming off of Chinquapin Round Road off of Forest or 665, it's like your first right, and you just sort of wind back behind there. There's gyms and your minute press. Quite an impressive studio here.
Yeah,
I mean,
I appreciate it. It's really, really cool. And I'll tell your followers and listeners that if you're not part of the email club of Annapolis, you should join, because I love getting that every time.
All righty. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.